Pokemon. It's a small, independent company that has created one of the largest brands in the world. From trading cards to games to movies, heck, even cities. If Pokemon can put their branding on it, you bet Game Freak will put that electric mouse and his friends on that. So it'd be no surprise that they're also in the toy business. Now, there are a lot of toy products that have been made out there, and it can be difficult on which one to pick up for those kiddos. Do you get a $12 little toy, or do you go for the $200 big toy, or do you go for something else? Well, I've decided to take on the task of grabbing these toys and reviewing them for you to tell you on what are the good toys to pick up. Welcome to Trinket or Trash.
Is it something that you want to display? Or is it something you want to throw away? Is it trinket or trash?
So for today, we're going to be looking at the 4D Build 3D Bulbasaur model kit. The reason why I picked this one is because A, it's not that too expensive, going for about $16, but also on top of that, I thought it looked pretty cool, and Bulbasaur was my first starter Pokemon. I picked it in my first time playing Pokemon Blue, and I named it Plant because I did not read the text and thought it was asking me for its typing, not its nickname. So I figured if I'm going to start off a brand new series, I might as well start off with my first Pokemon. Now to start things off, the first thing you'll realize when you open up a box like this is that these are not made of plastic pieces. They're actually made of styrofoam. The styrofoam that you kind of get with the airplanes back in the old arcade days where you would put them together, they would never work, and they would always kind of snap when you would try to piece it together like that. Yeah, it's made out of those things. Now this gave me such anxiety because every time I tried to piece together one part to another, it always gave off this creaking sound. And because of that, it was giving me such anxiety because every time I was trying to slot one piece into another, I was hearing that sound, and I always felt like I was about to snap it or crush the pieces together and break the whole thing entirely. So going through that initially at the beginning was pretty terrifying for me.
This is so stressful. This is more stressful. I thought this was plastic. I thought we were going to be able to just use plastic. You know, this is foam. This is so much worse.
So when you first open the box and you pull out the pieces of this, there are 195 pieces across several different sheets.
It's just staring at me.
And one of my issues I took up with this is how these pieces are arranged on these sheets. Now look, I get it. It's important to save money and to save resources by fitting in these pieces in relatively empty spaces. That way you're not wasting more resources and having just bulk pieces just spread around like that. I get that, and I'm not complaining about that. However, what I am saying is that some of the placement of these pieces are across several different sheets when you're trying to put together a certain portion like a leg or something. I feel like that could have been done a little bit better in regards to organizing this instead of just throwing them randomly on these sheets and having me to figure out where each individual piece is. That was a little annoying. It didn't frustrate me entirely, but it was annoying. The only tool that you needed that came with this kit was a plastic poker that you needed to poke holes out of certain slots in there.
Stab. Oh. You didn't see that?
It did also come in very handy a lot of times when I was a piece that was just stuck or it wasn't popping out, to be able to use that to get more pressure on the sheet itself so that you can pop the piece out. That way you're not damaging it or you didn't end up bending the piece trying to get it out of the sheet. So it did help further outside of just poking holes into the pieces. The instructions for the kit were pretty straightforward and made assembly very easy to put together. I didn't spend a lot of time looking at the instructions, trying to figure out what orientation or what direction something needed to be. It was all very clearly lined out and put together very well.
So the instructions, they're all in gray. Like the whole thing is gray except for the piece that you're supposed to attach. So all the gray blends together
sometimes, and so it's like, what is this trying to show me?
Now, as for the parts connecting to other parts, that was a little bit hit or miss for me. There were some portions where everything was perfectly cut out correctly and it would just slide right in with no issue whatsoever. However, there were a couple of times where some of the slots did not fit into the holes that they needed to be, so I had to compress them down and kind of pancake them in order to get them to slide in, which created an issue of those parts are now looser and would have a tendency to slide out when I was moving this somewhere else. There was also another issue where some of the cuts did not fit perfectly the way they were supposed to.
Okay, so that's about as in as it's gonna be, right? When I wrap around over here, if you can see, it's short. It doesn't fit.
In the back of the Bulbasaur, it just did not fit. So there were a lot of times when I'm trying to work somewhere else, the back ends would just pop out of place and I would have to go and refit those to put those back into place. And of course, having to either compress these further than they needed to be or stretch them out further so that they fit into the spot that they were going in, with this sound consistently in my ear, just made it very anxious and tense situation for me that didn't have to be there. But overall, here's the project. And again, I think it looks pretty cool. There are certain spots, like I said, they just didn't fit completely in, or as I was pointing out, the butt has a tendency to pop on out, even though you put it back in multiple times. But I think this was a pretty cool project. Overall, it took me about 3 hours to piece this together, and the one I gave my kid, which was the Pikachu variant, it took her about a day to get everything put together correctly on that. So I feel like this is a pretty fun project, and it's pretty quick to put together for somebody who's looking for a nice little simple project to have. Overall, I'm gonna have to give this 3D model kit a Garbodor plushie. Thank you everybody for watching. Please comment down below what you think about this. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.